What happens when the old rules of war collide with new technology? Imagine a column of Russian tanks rolling forward with confidence, only to find themselves trapped in a battlefield laced with invisible mines, drones circling overhead, and precision strikes waiting at every turn. Within minutes, their assault unravels into chaos. But this isn't just another failed attack. This battle reveals the brutal reality of modern warfare, where raw firepower means nothing without strategy. Stay tuned, because what you're about to see is both shocking and game-changing. It started with a convoy of 7 Russian vehicles, 3 tanks, and 4 armored personnel carriers, rolling toward Ukrainian positions. From a distance, it looked like a show of strength. The vehicles regrouped in a deserted settlement, trying to mask their movement, but what they didn't know was that Ukrainian drones were already overhead, tracking every move in real time. The lead tank pushed forward, confident that sheer armor would carry it through, but within seconds, a javelin missile streaked across the sky and slammed into the steel giant. The blast tore the tank apart, sending smoke pouring into the air. From the drone's camera, you can see the moment of impact in chilling detail, an entire assault force exposed in just one strike. And this was only the beginning. The first hit should have been a warning, but the Russian convoy kept pushing forward. Moments later, a second javelin missile cut through the air. It struck with pinpoint accuracy, and the explosion lit up the entire area. Another armored giant was gone in seconds. Still, the Ukrainians weren't finished. A third javelin was fired, this time tearing straight into its target and sending flames bursting from the wreck. 3 armored vehicles destroyed in rapid succession, each strike proving just how vulnerable Russia's advance had become. Panic began to spread. One of the APCs tried to flee, swinging away from the battlefield, but before it could escape, a Ukrainian RPG slammed into its side. The blast crippled the vehicle instantly, trapping its crew in the chaos. Desperate to fight back, a lone Russian tank turned its gun toward Ukrainian positions and fired, but the counterattack was short-lived. Ukrainian troops responded immediately, scoring another direct hit. The explosion ripped through the tank, leaving it crippled and exposed. And then, one of the already damaged tanks suddenly erupted in a massive secondary blast. The fireball was so intense that shrapnel rained down across the area, amplifying the destruction. But the ambush wasn't over yet. Amid the burning wrecks, one Russian APC pushed toward the edge of a wooded area. Its rear hatch dropped, and infantry began spilling out, desperate to establish a foothold on the ground. But the Ukrainians had anticipated this exact move. Within moments, an FPV drone locked on and dove straight into the vehicle. The blast ripped it apart before it had any chance to retreat. For Ukrainian forces, taking out vehicles is always the priority. Without them, Russian infantry are left stranded. No mobility, no protection, no way to pull back once the attack collapses. And that's exactly what happened here. As the smoke cleared, the surviving soldiers found themselves exposed, pinned down, and cut off. Their support vehicles were nothing more than twisted steel. The battlefield that was supposed to give Russia momentum had instead become a trap designed to swallow them whole. But this was only a prelude to something much bigger, because what came next wasn't just another skirmish. It was a full-scale assault. News of the ambush didn't stop the next wave. Russia committed a much larger column, dozens, then scores of armored vehicles converging from multiple directions. The plan was simple. Overwhelm the front with numbers and push through the gaps. What met them instead was a prepared battlefield. Mines buried along likely routes, artillery zeroed in on choke points, and drones feeding live targeting data to Ukrainian crews. The lead tanks bumped into the first minefield almost immediately. The ground erupted in a chain of explosions. One vehicle went up, then another, each blast throwing debris and smoke into the convoy's path and turning the road into a mine-strewn graveyard. Disabled APCs became unexpected barricades, funneling the rest of the column into narrow lanes where artillery could aim with deadly precision. Ukrainian artillery didn't just shell blindly, it hit the stalled convoy where it hurt most: supply vehicles, fuel trucks, and command vehicles. Without those, the assault lost momentum. Ukrainian UAVs hovered overhead, marking targets, while FPV drones made hit-and-run strikes on exposed turrets and engine compartments. The effect was surgical. Mobility was stripped away first, then firepower. As armored vehicles piled up and the route choked with wreckage, panic spread through the ranks. Drivers tried to turn around, crews abandoned equipment, and some vehicles attempted to force their way forward only to trigger more mines. Each rush only fed the kill zone. Artillery and drone teams exploited every opening. What began as a raw push turned into a slow-motion collapse, measured in burning hulks and scattered gear. This was a textbook failure of coordination. Massed armor without secure flanks, predictable routes without demining, and no effective counter to persistent aerial reconnaissance. The assault didn't break Ukrainian lines, it handed them a harvest of targets. But even with the convoy in tatters, the battlefield still had surprises in store. What followed next would deepen the chaos even more. The convoy's spine snapped. What had been an organized push dissolved into stampeding disorder. Drivers gews, oned engines, then slammed on brakes when the road ahead was a wall of burning metal. Crews abandoned vehicles and sprinted for cover, leaving radios blaring and gear scattered in the dust. Every sudden movement created new targets. Artillery crews adjusted quickly, turning those frantic maneuvers into lethal opportunities. Mines did more than explode, they severed the convoy's routes. Vehicles trying to flee blew themselves apart on the same traps that stopped them on the advance. Smoke and dust hid lurking threats, and commanders lost sight of where their units actually were. Without communications, orders arrived late or not at all. Confusion multiplied with every failed attempt to reorganize. That confusion fed the Ukrainians' plan. Drone and artillery teams synchronized strikes with surgical timing. A stalled APC became bait. A stalled tank became a beacon. As soldiers poured out from burning hulks, they ran straight into prepared kill zones. The panic wasn't just emotional. It was tactical, and it cost the Russians heavily. By the time the chaos subsided, what remained were rows of immobile armor and scattered supplies, the visible proof that numbers alone couldn't win. But the fighting wasn't over. As the dust settled, another weapon system began to dominate the scene, and it would change the battlefield entirely. Drones turned the battlefield into a hive of metal and noise. Small convoys that once moved with caution now moved under constant threat from above. An SUV and a supply truck were the first to vanish, targeted by a single drone strike that set off a chain reaction when ammo and fuel ignited. The scene exploded into flames, and what looked like minor hits quickly became catastrophic. FPV drones darted in low, almost like guided wasps. They hit hard and fast, punching through thin armor and finding exposed engine bays, fuel tanks, and ammunition stores. Sometimes one hit was enough. Other times operators needed to follow up with another pass. Either way, the result was the same. Vehicles disabled, crews trapped, and smoke marking perfect targets for artillery. The precision wasn't just about explosives. Recon drones tracked movement, fed coordinates, and watched for attempts to tow or recover damaged vehicles. When a tank broke away, a drone shadowed it until the moment was right. Then another drone or artillery strike finished the job. The synergy of eyes in the sky and fast strike drones made escape nearly impossible. Drones also turned simple concealment into a death trap. Troops hiding in trenches, in canals, or behind rubble found themselves exposed to tiny aircraft that could navigate anywhere. FPV operators sent kamikaze strikes into those tight spaces, removing what cover still existed. The battlefield shrank for the attacker and stretched for the defender. Most crucially, drones changed priorities. Destroying a vehicle now meant more than counting kills. It meant cutting off mobility, preventing retreats, and turning single losses into cascading failure across an entire formation. And after the drones did their work, artillery and missile systems moved in to finish the job. Next up, how Ukrainian counterstrikes hit supply and air defense nodes with devastating precision. Recon found the prize before the assault even began. A Russian missile storage site, quietly fed for weeks. Coordinates were locked, crews briefed, and a HIMARS unit prepared a surgical reply. 2 rockets found their mark. The first hit tore open the depot, igniting a chain of secondary explosions that lit the skyline. The second struck the same cratered spot, finishing what the first had